Hello, good evening, everybody. It's Patrick Christys tonight. Now, lots on. So there was political outrage, actually, recently over the Taliban removing women's rights to talk outside their own home. David Lammy piped up. He said, it's such a disgrace. Yeah, right, OK. We clutch our pearls about the plight of Iranian women, sometimes brutally beaten or killed for not wearing the veil. But we need to wake up, because this stuff is happening right here in Britain. Mohammed Hassan was at a petrol station in Bradford when he saw three women he knew who weren't wearing Islamic dress. They also had makeup on. Hassan attacked the three women. He grabbed one of them and bounced her head off a dashboard, and then he started punching the others. He also called them prostitutes. Can you guess what the sentence is in Britain for violently assaulting three women because they don't uphold Islamic dress codes? It's a 6-month suspended sentence, a £500 fine and some rehabilitation classes. Sectarian violence and brutality in Bradford. Not worth a prison sentence. There is CCTV of this incident and a mugshot of Hassan. We actually asked for this basic stuff from the local police force. No, they refused to provide it. They said to us, it looks like he was given a non-custodial sentence, so we wouldn't issue a custody image or a video in those circumstances. Well, I'm sorry, but I just don't think that's good enough. I also don't think that's true, actually. Once someone has been found guilty, it is quite common for the CCTV of still images of their crime to be published. We went back to them. We said, look, hey, we think it's in the public interest. This monster clearly poses a real and present danger to women everywhere, and his face should be put in the public domain. Nothing. So this guy launches into a kind of blasphemy attack on three women in broad daylight. He swerves jail, he pays 500 quid, and nobody's allowed to know what he looks like or see it for themselves. He's got away with it, though, really, hasn't he? But for me, the bigger problem is this, OK? What does this say about women's rights in some pockets of the Muslim community? And given that we're seeing a load of people come across the channel from places like Afghanistan, etc., every single day, how do we know we're not importing more medieval misogyny? Now, our Foreign Secretary and others can virtue signal about Afghanistan. I think they should be looking much closer to home. Let's get thoughts of my panel this evening. I'm joined by writer and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. I've got director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, and businessman and activist Adam Brooks. Mark, I'll start with you on this. Look, are you concerned about something that people don't seem to want to talk about, which is actually a lack of women's rights amongst pockets of the Muslim community?
Yeah, it does seem to be a problem, Patrick. A road I'm keen not to go down is to worry too much about motive. I mean, you've explained very well in your presentation there what the motive appeared to be. But this is no worse nor better than beating somebody up because they're wearing, I don't know, the wrong football shirt or have a different view of politics. I agree with you, however. The two things I'm mystified about is why the CCTV footage is not available. It no longer prejudices a court case. It's a matter of public record. And the second is the apparent leniency of the sentence. We've heard in the news bulletin just now that the prisons are nearly full. There's a few dozen spaces left. My view, there's about 100,000 people in prison in Britain, there or thereabouts. My view is there should probably be fewer people in prison for longer. That's to say the total number of man-hours would be about the same. And I would have thought custody should be principally for violent offences. You should expect to get locked up if you've committed violence. And on the face of it, that's what's happened here.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, Nina, for me, this highlights two real things, well, more than that, but namely, really active misogyny and soft justice.
The misogyny is just shocking, but then how is it different from domestic violence in that a man will beat up his wife or his partner because she's gone out wearing a low-cut top, and that's how, you're mine, you don't dare, you don't flaunt yourself to others. This is the same thing, except you've put religion into the mix. I didn't put religion into
No. He did because of the nature of his attack.
Fair enough. But then this whole domestic violence thing, the whole misogyny thing, why are men, particularly of this persuasion, or using religion, so terrified of women that they have to demean them? Why are the Republicans in America, they have taken away women's reproductive rights? Why, the Taliban, women now can't speak in public. They can't be educated. Why are men so terrified of women that they have to hide them away?
Some men.
Well, these particular groups of men why...
I mean, there's a bit of a difference between the Republican Party and the Taliban.
I'm
right?
saying this, there are degrees and degrees, but it's all along the same
I agree
lines.
with you. Certainly when it comes to things like the Taliban, and for me, as far as I'm concerned, it's small man syndrome. And that's basically what it is. You're telling me that your wife can't be heard outside of the home, in case another man... does something too. Well, I'm sorry, you've got a massive problem there. But Adam, look, I looked at this now, and I did wonder. You look at what's going on there. If he felt brazen enough to go and do that at a petrol station in broad daylight in Bradford, I worry severely about what's going on in his own home. And I also worry when I look at things like honour-based violence in Britain, and I see that there's an increase there. What that maybe says about integration amongst some people.
Look, I've got 2 daughters, Patrick, and I've never been so scared of the future of Britain. I'm actively trying to see how maybe I can get out. I'm petrified for the future of my kids, especially my 2 girls. I'm pretty confident that if I left this studio now and went and randomly attacked 3 women, abused them, called them prostitutes and other names, that I would be arrested and I would expect to go to prison. Now, the fact that that hasn't happened is worrying to me. Again, I think we're seeing 2-tier policing, 2-tier justice, and we've got a 2-tier Prime Minister in this country and a 2-tier media, the way things are treated. Yvette Cooper said they was waging a war on misogyny. Why isn't she speaking out today? This case is all over the newspapers. Why isn't she giving a statement to say this is not on? No, she buries her head because she doesn't want to offend.
Give her a chance. I mean, it's just happened, for heaven's sake.
She hasn't.
Give her a chance.
She didn't say anything about the Notting Hill Carnival either, and all the arrests. Where is she?
That's the same. How many are there? I'm not saying. I mean, I went to the Notting Hill Carnival once 20 years ago and never again. I hate crowds, and I thought, what am I doing here? And I don't even like the music. So, no, I don't. Nor the food.
All right.
The alcohol.
Why did you go at all?
The alcohol.
Because it
was supposed to be fun. I was completely claustrophobic. But anyway, it happens every year. You get 1 million people together. You get a lot of booze. You get a lot of dope being smoked. You've got kids carrying knives, and something's going to happen, and something did.
Yeah.
Right.
But Adam's got a point, hasn't he, on this? That it does appear, I mean, particularly what Patrick said about GB News trying to get this footage and being frustrated by the West Yorkshire Police. That is outrageous.
So
this should now be freely available.
Can I just say with that, this guy, I think, pretty obviously poses a very real risk to women, OK? And I also do think that he does have a relatively common name. OK, and if I had his name, of which I imagine there are literally thousands of people with that name in Britain at the moment, I would wager there's quite a few in Bradford, actually. I would be thinking, well, hang on a minute, it's not me. I don't want that out there. I think, actually, there's just a general sense of a public duty, this guy's... And I must say, I do have... I do wonder why they've decided not to put that footage out. I think it would have been very stark. I think it would have gone viral. And I think that they might have seen a potential problem to stoke racial tensions there.
Well, I think the thing is, if the events of the last, 3 or 4 weeks ago hadn't happened, then there might have been a different approach. But it's like a tinder box, isn't it? They've managed to douse.
But Nina, we've got to have.
They've managed to douse it down, and you do.
But we've got to have an open justice system.
Absolutely, but you do not inflame a situation.
Can I just say, Nina, for me, on that, right, the actual problem there is the crimes being committed. It's not actually just people's reactions to it. And I understand that we don't want to end up seeing people doing things like burning mosques down and all of that.
No.
Absolutely, obviously not. But actually, what people really want is for this stuff to stop happening, and that's
well, then you
that's exactly right.
You stop domestic violence happening
100%.
as well.
But we've got 2 and 3 year sentences being handed out for idiots that are posting pretty bad stuff on Facebook or Twitter. They're idiots for doing that. Do they deserve to go to prison for 2 or 3 years when we've got women beaters walking the streets? We've got Rolex robbers, violent Rolex robbers walking the streets. We've got paedophiles that download images, hundreds of images of babies, in sexual positions and things, walking the streets. This is a 2-tier justice system.
Nothing to do with that.
Well, let's rein it back in onto this particular issue now. Now, I do have concerns, Mark, about a very taboo issue that I think people are reluctant to talk about. Nina is absolutely right. There is domestic violence right across the spectrum, and it's terrible, and it needs to be stamped out. But I do have concerns about domestic violence and the control over women amongst certain aspects of the Muslim community. And I don't feel like we're necessarily able to have a proper conversation about that.
I think that is right, that we have become so desperate not to offend any sector of society that we don't want to pass any form of judgment. We are worried that any statement we make will be taken as a stereotype or an overgeneralisation. Sometimes, by the way, stereotypes and generalisations are helpful to understand what's going on as a general rule. Doesn't mean you should apply them to everybody and in all circumstances. And I fear that's exactly what's happening, that there is a worry, as Nina said, I quite agree with you, we don't want to inflame an already difficult situation. But if you run away from the truth, if you are not willing to put on the table exactly what happened, inch by inch, footage, the whole lot, the pictures, then you have a real problem. Suppression of information, data. I know GB News has been running a campaign to try and break down the nature of criminality by, all of this data should be on the table and open for discussion. And the minute that we lean into saying, oh no, people might derive the wrong conclusions, you no longer have an open, liberal and just society.
Doesn't it also prove that religion is one of the most explosive, most negative aspects of life today?
No,
I would very happily live in a secular
stuff?
state. I would very happily live in a so many problems in the world have been caused by religious wars. Look at Ireland, Catholic versus Protestant.
Yeah, that's true.
Can I just say, I am deeply concerned that when we look, and we're going to talk about this a bit later about the illegal migrant crisis and everything, but I am concerned that what we see when we see people coming across in these boats and from the parts of the world that a lot of them come from, how commonly held these views about women are. And that is, I've got a massive issue with that. No one wants to mention it.
We don't necessarily know that.
We've got a good idea, Tony.
You don't know that.
We've got a good idea, because they're not a boatload of progressives off the
You don't know that. You absolutely, because
that's a good idea.
Because they, if they're coming from Afghanistan, they are fleeing the
leaving the women and children behind.
We're talking about
at the end of the Second World War. At the end of the Second World War, when Europe was ravaged and the economy of almost every European country was completely trashed, the men left Europe. For instance, they went to Australia. So the Italians went to Australia, the Greeks went to Australia, and it was the men that went first and then brought their families over.
I'm an atheist. Religion is not for me. But one thing religion does do is give a lot of people a lot of comfort in their lives. And I respect any religion. Yeah. But not one religion should give you a get-out-of-jail-free card to do what you want in society, especially...
I agree.
And it's very rarely that you hear that it's some extremely violent Buddhist who has carried out some action.
That's the whole point of the Buddhist religion. But the thing is, I loathe the fact... I'm very unhappy when I see women who are in some way enslaved to a religion or in some way enslaved by men or have been indoctrinated, and they are not free, and that upsets me more than anything.
OK, all right, all of you, thank you very much. A lively start. We love to see it. Now, coming up...